Attention! Information about this case is taken from open sources on the Internet. The author is not engaged in own investigation. The video is created on the basis of already existing information. The video on the channel is documentary, narrative and informational nature. The author does not call for violence. Maria del Rocio Alfaro is guilty of the murder of Autumn Wallace. The defendant killed 9-year-old Autumn Wallace on June 15, 1990, during a burglary and robbery at Wallace's home. Autumn's body was found in the bathroom of the home with more than 50 stab wounds. The defendant was a high school friend of the victim's sister, April Wallace, and lived approximately 3 blocks from Wallace's home. Autumn Wallace, the murder victim, was 9 years old. She lived with her mother, Linda Wallace, a clerk of the Orange County Superior Court, with her older sister, April Wallace, and her young son on Hedlund Street in Anaheim, California. Autumn's friend, Christina S., testified that on Friday, June 15, 1990, it was early afternoon at their school at 2:35 p.m. School recess ended, and around that time, she and Autumn left school and went to Autumn's home. 3 of Wallace's neighbors testified that on the afternoon of Autumn's murder, they each separately saw a reddish or golden bronze Monte Carlo parked in Wallace's driveway and 2 Hispanic men standing nearby, facing the street. One of the men was holding a child, approximately 18 months old. The man and the child were later identified as Antonio Shorty Reynoso. April Wallace testified that she tried to call Autumn at approximately 4:30 p.m. to let her know she would be home late from work, but Autumn didn't answer. April returned home at approximately 5:15 p.m. to find the front door locked. She entered and found the house in disarray. The hallway closet was open, and things were scattered about. April called out to Autumn, but received no answer. Entering the bedroom, April noticed that the television and mirror were missing, and some clothes were scattered about. April immediately left the house and crossed the street to a neighbor's house. At approximately 5:40 p.m., Linda Wallace arrived at the house, and April informed her that the house had been burglarized and Autumn was missing. Linda entered the house looking for Autumn and noticed that many things were missing. Unable to find a phone in the house, Linda asked April to call the police from another location. While April ran to the neighbor's house, Linda searched her house and discovered Autumn's body in the bathroom. The defendant was a high school friend of April Wallace's and lived approximately 3 blocks from the Wallace house. During her friendship with April, the defendant visited the Wallace house many times and lived there for a time while pregnant with her second child. April testified that after 1989, she and the defendant stopped being friends because April doubted her credibility. The defendant told police she decided to kill Autumn because the child might identify her as the burglar. She explained that she took a knife into the bathroom and contemplated the murder for several minutes. After calling Autumn into the bathroom, the defendant took an eyelash curler from her makeup bag and asked Autumn to clean it. Autumn complied, and after she turned around at the defendant's request, the defendant began stabbing her. The defendant told police that he stabbed Autumn multiple times in the back, chest, and head. A paring knife and an eyelash curler were found on the bathroom floor next to Autumn's body. The defendant confessed to stabbing Autumn, initially telling police that shortly after entering the house, she saw a knife on the ground and stabbed Autumn. Later, during questioning, the defendant told police that she noticed and picked up a knife lying on a washing machine or dryer near the bathroom, then called Autumn into the bathroom and stabbed her. The defendant subsequently described taking the knife from a kitchen drawer after Autumn let her into the house. The defendant repeatedly claimed to have acted alone in Autumn's murder and repeatedly denied that any of the men who came with her to the Wallace home knew of the defendant's plans to rob the house. The coroner testified that the angle of most of the wounds indicated they were inflicted simultaneously, and that the paring knife found on the floor near the murder scene and entered as Exhibit 61 had a configuration and appearance that could easily have caused most, if not all, of the injuries. Regarding at least one of the wounds, the coroner could not definitively confirm that it was inflicted with a paring knife. During the police investigation, Linda Wallace reported that a carving knife with a 12-inch blade had disappeared from her home. DNA testing by the Orange County Sheriff's Department Crime Lab showed that blood found on the sole of the defendant's Law Gear shoe matched Autumn Wallace's blood, but did not match the defendant's. Several shoe prints found on the linoleum near the bathroom revealed the same general class characteristics as the defendant's Law Gear shoe prints. Furthermore, the defendant's fingerprints and palm prints matched some of the 26 fingerprints and a palm print found in various locations in the house. A paring knife and eyelash curler were found on the bathroom floor near Autumn's body. The defendant told police that she then removed the television from April's room and the VCR from the living room and carried them to the car, where Reynoso and the driver were waiting with Manny. The defendant returned to the house and took a typewriter, mirror, telephone, clock, radio, clothing, and a pair of shoes from April's bedroom. She removed a telephone, iron, lamp, radio, and Nintendo game console from Linda Wallace's bedroom, and a clock and calculator from the living room. The defendant attempted to remove the microwave, but later discovered it was too large for the car. When leaving Wallace's house, the defendant took the knife she had stabbed Autumn with. An autopsy revealed that Autumn Wallace had suffered more than 50 stab wounds to the head, neck, upper torso, chest, front of the body, and back. Wounds to the heart and larynx were the cause of her death. The first stage of the sentencing trial ended in a denial of prosecution. After a retrial, the jury returned a death sentence. The trial court denied an automatic motion to amend the sentence. DNA testing revealed that blood found on the sole of the defendant's shoe matched Autumn Wallace's blood, but did not match the defendant's. Furthermore, fingerprints from the shoe and boot found at the murder scene linked the defendant to the murders. After her arrest, having waived her rights to an attorney and her right to remain silent, the defendant confessed to the murders. Although the defendant consistently claimed that Reynoso remained outside in the driveway with Manny while she committed the murder and burglary, during police questioning, the defendant was inconsistent in her description of the second man's whereabouts. Initially, the defendant said he got out of the car to help her place the things she had taken from Wallace's house inside, but did not enter the house. Later, the defendant suggested the man might have entered the house. However, when the defendant explained her decision not to take the microwave, she implied that the man had gone as far as the back bedroom. The defendant did not testify at the guilty plea, but claimed that the man who brought her and her accomplice to Wallace's home pressured her to kill Autumn, threatening the lives of herself and her family. Giffen testified that during a conversation with the defendant, he recalled witness statements about a small child being seen in front of the house with two Hispanic men. The next day, after learning that a fingerprint lifted in Wallace's bathroom matched the defendant's, Giffen interviewed the defendant in Stanton. The defendant denied any involvement in the crimes. Sometime after the murder, the defendant left a bag of clothes at the house where they occasionally stayed overnight. Rulers testified that the clothes belonged to the defendant. The defendant called Rulers and asked her to leave a bag of clothes outside because she was leaving for Mexico early the next morning, but she never returned to pick them up. Investigator Giffen retrieved the bag from Rulers on June 24, 1990. During the search of the bag, Cueva was the father of the defendant's youngest children. The defendant was addicted to heroin and cocaine, and on the day of the murder, she left Cueva's home at approximately 11 a.m. to buy drugs, taking Manny with her. An unidentified acquaintance drove the defendant to the Anaheim neighborhood known as Little Tijuana, where she found a man named Juan, who worked with her mother at Disneyland. Juan directed the defendant to a neighboring apartment, where rumor had it that some guy downstairs named Juro was selling drugs. The defendant left Manny with Juan in his apartment, while she and another woman named Sabrina went to buy drugs, purchasing 2 dime bags each of cocaine and heroin. Afterward, the defendant and Sabrina returned to Juan's apartment, where they prepared and injected the drugs until approximately 2 p.m. Cueva was the father of the defendant's youngest children. The defendant was addicted to heroin and cocaine, and on the day of the murder, she left Cueva's home at approximately 11 a.m. to buy drugs, taking Manny with her. An unidentified acquaintance drove the defendant to the Anaheim neighborhood known as Little Tijuana, where she found a man named Juan who worked with her mother at Disneyland. Juan directed the defendant to a neighboring apartment, where rumor had it that some guy downstairs named Juro was selling drugs. The defendant waived her right to testify in her own defense, and the defense called no witnesses. The jury found the defendant guilty of the charges and upheld the allegation that she used a knife to commit the crime, as well as the special circumstances that she committed murder during the first-degree burglary and robbery.